You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, broadcast in mid-January 2022. Today we talk about Sarah Jane Smith/Elizabeth Sladen collectibles, and who better to talk to about that than my highest-ranking guest to date? Sadie Miller, the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen, joins me. On Collection Protection, we showcase the brand new protection products for your Doctor Who trading and Typhoo tea cards. Our most outrageous offer has an autobiography priced way too high, and now we know the secret of those high prices. Last, we have an audio clip of Elizabeth Sladen as a police constable before her role on Doctor Who. Ready? Then please bring to the microphone to sing our theme song, Fraser Hines.
They all say, who is Doctor Who? Where is he from? What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, the podcast that explores the family-friendly world of Doctor Who collecting, those who collect Doctor Who, issues surrounding Doctor Who collecting, and of course, all kinds of Doctor Who and related merchandise. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting Doctor Who now for 40 years. I opened one of the first Doctor Who stores in Chicago that exclusively served Doctor Who fans, and I called it Bundles from Britain. And once I left that business many years ago, I thought it was going to be forgotten forever, but instead, I discovered it in a wonderful book called Red, White, and Who, The Story of Doctor Who in America. And Bundles from Britain lives on page 384. You can find a convenient link to buy this book on our front page of our website at drwhocollectors.com, and I just want everyone to have a copy. We have no stake in the book, but get yourself a copy, and it's a great read if you want to learn about how Doctor Who has impacted in America. I'm excited, and of course, very excited to say we are part of the Direction Point Doctor Who Podcast Network. You can find great Doctor Who podcasts at directionpoint.org. And if you are a Doctor Who podcaster, join the network today and join the ranks of podcasts like ours and Time Streams, Police Box in a Junkyard, the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, and Traveling the Vortex. For more information, go to directionpoint.org. And speaking of links, of course, I like to include these two wonderful resources for collectors that are absolutely free to use. The first, of course, is timelash.com. Under that umbrella is the TARDIS Library, and it's a great place to not only search out Doctor Who books, vinyl records, cassette tapes, VHS tapes, Betamax tapes, and other CDs and other things like that, but it's a great place to keep track of your collection. You can register for a free account and log those collectibles. Unfortunately, it doesn't include everything for Doctor Who, but a lot of the media items are included there. So we extend our special thanks to Mr. Dan O'Malley, who keeps that site operating for free. And if you're not sure exactly if you have something of worth or if it is indeed a Doctor Who collectible, you can find out more by looking it up at Howe's Transcendental Toy Box. You can find that at drwhotoybox.co.uk. And of course, David J. Howe, a great friend and best resources for collectors. If you're looking for a great Doctor Who item at a great price, now look no further, of course, than DoctorWhoStore.com. That's owned by Alien Entertainment, and they have everything you need, and they're currently running a lot of sales on many items, and those sales will not last forever. Also find them on eBay. And if you happen to live in the Chicago suburbs, you can also select free pickup from the store, which is a wonderful way to save on shipping costs. You can also find other great Doctor Who items at one of our sponsors, Forbidden Planet. So you can just go to our website, drwhocollectors.com, select the link that says Doctor Who merchandise links, and see all of the items available from Forbidden Planet, as well as our eBay store. Items selected through our website, of course, you pay the same price at Forbidden Planet, but we get a small portion of that to help benefit the podcast. In addition to all that wonderful stuff on our website, you will also find the complete guide to Doctor Who classic hardcover books. I'm talking about the books published by Alan Wingate, W.H. Allen, and Longbow from 1974 to 1988. And we have them in publication order. We list reprints. We list approximate values based on those prices as they're going today. And of course, we list a lot of reprints that some people didn't even know were reprinted, and when those reprints stopped. We also are airing more of our 10-part series on the classic hardcovers with our Doctor Who novelization expert Tony Witt in the coming months. Now that Chicago TARDIS 2021 is behind us in the rearview mirror, we are now looking forward in the future to Chicago TARDIS 2022. So to stay on top of that, keep ChicagoTARDIS.com in your shortcuts or bookmarks or however you store your links, and experience the best Doctor Who convention in the Midwest. I am very honored by Chicago TARDIS to be the collection expert for them officially. And I have presented panels on Doctor Who collecting, as well as presented on other topics as well. I'm a frequent speaker at Chicago TARDIS. If you want to catch my collecting panel that was done for the virtual convention in 2020, it is still available online. You just go to the Chicago TARDIS YouTube or Facebook page, or you can go to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast YouTube page and select playlists, and we have that on there as well. It's a wonderful presentation from the Who Room, and it's absolutely free. I will have Chicago TARDIS updates as they happen. I want to, of course, include a special thank you to the sponsors of our podcast, which include Forbidden Planet, where you can get great Doctor Who merchandise, Bags Unlimited Incorporated, which sponsors our collection protection, bags and boxes and acid-free containers that help keep your collection fresh for years to come. They provided us with many giveaways that we did at the Chicago TARDIS convention. You can buy Forbidden Planet items, like I said before, directly on our website. And you can get most of your collection protection materials at bagsunlimited.com. One more link I want to share with you, nothing to do with the sponsorship, but just some great Doctor Who books that are coming out, and especially for the anniversary, the 60th anniversary coming up soon. And that's Telos Publications, and you'll find them at Telos, that's telos.co.uk. And yes, all of their items can be shipped to the United States. Coming up on today's show, we are going to be talking about Sarah Jane Smith-Elisabeth Sladen collectibles, and my very, very special guest is Sadie Miller. She's the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen and currently portraying Sarah Jane Smith in the world of Big Finish. You can find more of those at bigfinish.com. We love stories. I also want to thank our patrons. If you'd like to help us out here and see exclusive video material that you can't see in the podcast because it's an audio transmission, but we do have the video interviews and some special videos that we do about collectibles and showcasing some things up close and personal. You'll need to go to our Patreon page and subscribe at the $15 level or above. I want to thank our current patrons, which include the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast and many of those others who asked me not to read their name on the air. So to find us, you just go to patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, all one word. And of course, if you are not a Patreon person and you'd still like to support us, you can support us on Podbean. Podbean is a great podcast platform, and you can find us there at drwhocollectors.podbean.com. Click the Become a Patron button, and you can support us at any amount you feel comfortable with. In addition to that, you can go to our website at drwhocollectors.com and click on the PayPal donate button and give us $1, give us 10, give us whatever you want. Just if you want to help us keep the bills down, we're more than happy. All the proceeds, by the way, go to costs of maintaining the podcast. Our theme song is Who's Doctor Who, composed by the great Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by our good friend Fraser Hines. You can hear this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts now, including Stitcher Radio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. That's a new one. And of course, Podbean and the usual Apple Podcasts. And you can also find this podcast wherever great podcasts are found. You can also find this podcast and other podcasts at the Direction Point Network. That's at directionpoint.org. So after the quick break, we will have our collection protection, our main story, and our most outrageous offer, including how those prices get so high. We actually did our next episode after this. We have an interview with David J. Howe on the New Who Adventures book, and David broke down how those prices get raised on various online stores. So we're going to share a little bit with today, but we'll let David explain it in our next episode. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Fitz-Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, a Direction Point podcast. Keep collecting.
I would like to invite you to take a trip across all of time and space.
Join us in the police box as we discuss the worlds of Doctor Who in a completely random order.
We discuss it all: TV stories, audio adventures, novels, nonfiction books, and on and on. I'm your host, Eric Branson. I would be very happy if you'd join me for the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast.
The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a proud partner of the Video Junkyard podcast and can be found on most major podcast platforms including SoundCloud, Podcast Addict, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and Spotify.
You are listening to
The Doctor Who Collectors Podcast.
Sad, really, isn't it? People spend all their time making nice things, and other people come along and break them.
And now it's time for Collection Protection. Collection Protection, sponsored by Bags Unlimited Incorporated. You can reach them at bagsunlimited.com, or you can call them at 1-800-767-2247. If you do call, mention that you heard this on the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Unfortunately, I have no special deal for that, but just let them know that you heard it here. Today, we mentioned in our main story the Taifu tea cards that went with the Amazing World of Doctor Who. You've got those with your Taifu tea. And, of course, there was an offer on the back for the wall chart. And, of course, there was the book, The Amazing World of Doctor Who. I have all three of those things. I have all the cards, the wall chart, and the book. But protecting those cards, I mean, when I got those cards, they were all together in one single sleeve, all jammed together. And I thought, well, that's not a good way to really protect those. So now they're in an individual, they're kind of rigid card protectors at 2.5 mil. And I'm thinking all of my trading cards should be in those. So Bags Unlimited has some new items for trading cards, and these trading cards are all standard size cards, which work with the Doctor Who Topps cards, the Doctor Who trading cards, the Flux card game, cards from the Doctor Who Strawberry Fair board game, and any kind of card that you want to protect with regard to Doctor Who. So these are new products in the trading card supplies category at bagsunlimited.com. And so a lot of these items have really thick, good thickness here, cardboard, top loader cards with 30-point thickness. Some of them have recessed corners. Some of them have side load. Some of them have these are even display cases. If you need a card stand, if you want to display your cards on a shelf, they've got those. The one-touch card holder stand, and the PSA graded card stand as well as the mold card stand, which is more like an easel. So there's also a magnetic card holder if you want to stick them to your fridge. However you want to display those. So they're highly rated. Of course, Bags Unlimited makes items to show for long-term protection as well as short-term. And they also have, if you go further into the trading card supply thing, they have boxes. They have plastic boxes that are a bit more water resistant, especially if you store stuff in a basement like I do, because that's just where I have it. And many of those things are on high shelves and above the ground, but still, you want to make sure that you protect it as best you can. The investment, of course, in protection depends upon what you're protecting. The more valuable the item, the more money you should spend on protecting it. And that's something that, is kind of goes with that collection protection, is making sure that you have the right materials. I would, to be honest, I'm going to ask to avoid buying protective bags and things from Amazon, because I've noticed I've gotten a few of those just to try them out, and they don't protect the items as well as Bags Unlimited. Now, Bags Unlimited has been around since 1981, and I've been buying their bags since 1984. So they have never let me down. The stuff that I've had in bags since 1984 have never faded, are still in really great shape. They've lasted all this time, even moving various places I've moved. So I can't say enough about how wonderful this company is, and they are not paying me to say that. That is because I used my own experience as a collector for 40 years, and I want to make sure that you get the best that is available. We also, I remember, showcased the bags, the book bags that fit the classic hardcovers exactly. And we've even had people from overseas split the cost on those, because they didn't need 100, they needed like 40, and somebody else needed 20, and they were able to split the cost on a set. So it's a wonderful thing to do. So anyway, the trading cards and new products for those are all available at bagsunlimited.com. So thank you for listening. This was Collection Protection.
Hi, I'm Katie Haynes, or as some of you might know me, the Doctor. You can find me at KatieGangel44 on TikTok, and you have been listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting. Speaking of which, I got this one, and I've got all of these. I really should have a display for these.
And now it's time for the main story. 48 years ago, in January of 1974, the world of Doctor Who changed forever. The most popular companion to ever travel with the Doctor was brought onto the screen, and Sarah Jane Smith appeared in episode 1 of The Time Warrior, going alongside the third Doctor, John Pertwee. Sarah Jane, of course, was played by the late Elizabeth Sladen. The character would continue to the fourth Doctor and leaving his travels on October 23, 1976. She would return to television on December 28, 1981, which is 41 years ago, for K9 and Company, which sadly was a failed pilot, but a wonderful story. She did come back for the 30th anniversary special, Dimensions in Time, and did 2 of the very first Doctor Who audio stories, The Ghosts of End Space and The Paradise of Death with John Pertwee, which was kind of a precursor to the Big Finish world. But she was not done. She would return to join the third Doctor again on November 23, 1983 for The Five Doctors. She would again join the 10th Doctor in an episode called School Reunion on April 29, 2006 with our popular K9. This was, of course, getting ready for her own television adventure, The Sarah Jane Adventures, which started January 1st, 2007 and lasted until October 18th, 2011. She would then appear with the 11th Doctor and with Jo Grant, played by Katie Manning, her immediate predecessor on Doctor Who. And she would do one more Doctor Who appearance with David Tennant in The Stolen Earth and Journey's End in 2008. Sadly, Elizabeth Sladen passed away on April 19, 2011. During her time on and off Doctor Who, many items were made using her likeness, including books, records, videotapes, action figures, and much more. I am greatly honored to introduce my guest today, Sadie Miller, the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen and currently playing Sarah Jane Smith for Big Finish. Welcome to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, Sadie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. I met Sadie at first on Instagram and then in person at Chicago TARDIS. And I believe that was your first convention. Is that right?
It wasn't, no, but it was my first one overseas. I'd done a couple in the UK.
The first convention in the United States. So we'll go there. And so what was your opinion of Chicago TARDIS?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was so lovely to get to see everyone. And I think the American conventions are so much bigger than the UK.
Yes.
And so many amazing cosplayers and just such a great community feel of people. It was really wonderful.
Well, I wanted to share with you a comment. I had posted a preview of this podcast on Facebook, and the first comment that came in this morning, and I have to read it to you. I loved meeting her in Chicago. I have fallen in love with her as much as I had with Liz. Truly an amazing young woman with lots of talent and very compassionate. So you definitely left an impact on the fans here.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Oh, how wonderful.
Absolutely. Now, going back in time, I met your mom first at two conventions. The first one was in November of '84, which she was pregnant at the time. So you were technically there as well. That was the first time I saw her. She did a panel with John Pertwee. And later with Tom Baker. He was at that convention, and it was I had just a brief moment to shake her hand and say hello. But then I saw her again the next year in 1985, November of '85. You had been born, of course, earlier that year. So she came back, and I had about a 5-minute conversation with her. Of course, back in the '80s, there were no smartphones or ways to contact. So it was just my memory of sitting in the hotel lobby at the Hyatt Regency. And she was just sitting there, just enjoying a cup, I believe, of either coffee or tea. I don't remember what she had, but I just wanted to say, I said, my entire childhood, you were one of the greatest people that I've ever had to see on Doctor Who, because she was my second companion growing up in Chicago. I started watching the show in 1975. And they started with the John Pertwee episodes with Joe Grant. And then, of course, moving into Sarah Jane Smith with Liz Sladen. And I said, it was just, she was not the damsel in distress. She was definitely not the screaming companion. She was definitely an independent woman. And I remember just I believe it's Ark in Space when Ian Marter picks her up and she's like, put me down. I do not need your help. And I just remember that as being, wow, that was the most powerful thing I ever saw. So, of course, my first question with you, of course, being born in 1985, Doctor Who was essentially off the air when you became of age. But what was your first experience watching Doctor Who?
So it was just watching it at home with Mum, really. I, as you say, hadn't really gotten awareness of the program because it wasn't on air when I was growing up, but there were still kids my age that knew about it and, would play about it in the playground and things. But it was just at home with the old, VHS tapes.
Right.
Watching them with my mum. I remember watching Pyramids of Mars, I think was maybe
yes.
ones. I think that was one of Mum's favourite stories and one that she felt I might be interested in because it's quite a fun, exciting story. I think even if you're not interested in Doctor Who, I think a lot of the stories are good adventure stories, aren't they, really? Not just necessarily science fiction. So I definitely remember watching that growing up.
Well, I have to agree. Pyramids of Mars is one of my all-time favorite stories because it's a story where you have the Doctor really has to make a decision because he even goes to the future and says, here's what will happen if we do nothing. And Sarah, of course, my favorite picture, and I wish I had one, BBC Photos used to issue these, but it's her with the rifle. And just that rifle shot, and I believe it's on the cover. I have some covers to show you as we go forward. But just one of those stories, and I know just reading some of your background, that is one of the stories you studied for the character of Sarah Jane that you portray on Big Finish. And I just happened to finish both of those. I have here the Return of the Cybermen, which was the original Revenge of the Cybermen script before it got edited. And I think this is a better one than Revenge of the Cybermen myself. I thought this was absolutely a much better story. It made better sense to me now that I watched them both back and forth. And I just started into the Third Doctor adventures, where you're with John Pertwee, or Tim Traylor, I should say, and these characters. And so, I mean, working with, what was it like working with Tom Baker? I don't know if you actually were with him or it was all virtual. I don't know how that worked, but.
No, so for the very first ones, it was pre-COVID. So it was November 2019, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
we could all be in the
Wonderful.
same room. So that was lovely.
Oh,
He's such a great fun guy. I mean, quite, mischievous and naughty as well, but he knows the character so well. So it kind of eases you into the process. But it was a lot of fun, and just sitting and chatting with him as well, because I've sort of seen him sporadically over the years, but I don't sort of know him very well. So it was really nice just to get to see him again.
well, that's great. Yeah, I met him twice in my life, and he was just somebody who really loved his fans. He loved the attention. He even in Chicago here, he even appeared on the local news. He went to the news station, and I guess the guy that was interviewing him had never heard of him, but But people in the newsroom, when they saw him walk in, they thought, "Oh my gosh, it's Tom Baker," and they're like, the people like saw you come in, and they thought it was Paul Newman walking in the door or something like that. And Tom was he treated the guy exactly the way he would in an interview with somebody who had no idea who he was, and it was just a really good interview. And he was there to promote the Spirit of Light convention in '84, which was probably the biggest. It was my first convention in Chicago. I was very young, and it was just a wonderful experience to see five doctors on stage, and experience the thing that was. It was just a 3-day. It was a 3-day event. It was the biggest thing that had ever been done in Chicago, and there were thousands of people there. So it was really wonderful. Was there a lot of Doctor Who memorabilia in your home growing up? Did she keep a lot of things? Were there things around that you were able to see or experience?
Sure. I mean, I think she had little bits and bobs, but to be honest, because I don't know the show in depth enough, I'm sure that there's stuff that's probably from Doctor Who that I don't even realise that's what it's from. And after she passed away, a lot of people did contact me and my dad to ask, did we have anything that we would want to auction or maybe sell or whatever? And I don't feel that we actually do have that much stuff. I know that Mum kept Owlie, the little owl toy from Hand of
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I love that story as well.
It's a great end story, isn't it? Because I think they were going to kill off the character originally. And then
yes. And I'm so glad, I read some of that background about, that the initial and the backlash was, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, if you go, right now, if you go online and you say, who is the most popular character on Doctor Who, 9 times out of 10, it's Sarah Jane Smith.
Oh, wow.
And that's going from the old to the new. So, since she actually appeared in both series and had her own run and had a lot of popularity, the number one costume in 1984 at that convention was the Andy Pandy overalls with the dark hair and people, and some with spiders on their back and things like that. And I remember some of those people walking into the Liz Sladen things, and she would comment on that, like, "Wow, they look great," or "Those costumes look better than what I had." And I'm just going to show you real quick. That's what when they did the Funko. That's the Andy Pandy. I don't know if you have this one, but this is. Yeah, you do, Sarah. And I love that outfit. And of course, she's got the ring, the Eldrad ring. And she's like, "Eldrad must live." Yeah. So just now, when you were growing up, did any of the Doctor Who actors visit and see you around the house or visit Liz at all, or no, not at all?
No, not really. I mean, I guess people have an idea that actors are very sociable and go to lots of parties and lots of events and stuff. But my parents weren't like that at all, really. So not really. My mum told me that Ian Marter came to the house once when I was a baby, and his wife, I think her name is Matty. She used to come to the house sometimes after he'd passed away just to catch up with Mum, but not really. I mean, I don't ever remember anyone really from.
Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds about right. I mean, sometimes I know that works in Hollywood circles too. They don't often unless they happen to live in the neighborhood. I know like Jack Nicholson lived next door to oh gosh, I can't think of his name off the top. It'll come later, but he lived next to a famous guy that they talked all the time. But otherwise, they never see people unless you're in a project.
Sure, yeah.
And I had a chance to view other projects that your mom was in. I saw her as a police constable and I also noticed that she was in a movie with Jerry and the Pacemakers, uncredited. And I thought that's awesome because I'm a music teacher by day and I teach a history of popular music class, and I remember including parts of that film. And I'm like, I got to see this film again so I could see if I could spot her in the movie, because that was so cool when I looked at her body of work. And just some amazing her accents and her ability to deliver, and it was just really something else. So I have a few items to share with you and our listeners. Of course, our listeners, if you're listening to this interview and you want to see some of these things that we're doing, you can visit us on our Patreon page, and of course, see the interview and our interaction here with Sadie Miller. First of all, I love your glasses. By the way, those are the glasses I wore when I was a teenager. Those are awesome.
Oh,
I mean, the big glasses are really, just really cool, and just some great stuff. I wanted the first thing I want to ask you about was I watched a BBC interview you did about 10 years ago, and you said you saw a life-size cardboard cutout of your mom in some guy's living room and called it strange. So those are still out there. I don't have one, but they're going for about £100 right now, and they're still available. And I know those were licensed by a celebrity cardboard cutout. You can get one from David Tennant, and you can get one for her and for other actors. The only thing I was really disappointed about is in the 70s when Dennis Fisher did their action figures, they did not do a Sarah Jane action figure. They did a Leela action figure, and the Leela action figure didn't sell very well. But I think the Sarah Jane one would have sold a lot better if they had done one. They didn't do a Sarah Jane action figure until most recently. But I'll go back in time for media. These are things that were produced before you were born. But one of our first artwork pieces, this is a laser disc of the Ark in space.
Oh, wow.
And a laser disc, I don't know if you know what laser discs, but they were giant CDs, basically, that was supposed to take over, revolutionize home video, and of course it didn't. And this is the UK one from PAL. They did not release this one in the United States, but it's a wonderful, here's the back here.
Wow.
Trying to keep the glare off of that, but yeah, lots of pictures of your mom on that, and the artwork on the front. Just a lovable story. Of course, the guy in the bubble wrap, the green bubble wrap. I love the BBC.
Nothing.
So just that was the that media. Of course, the home video was very popular. I have my copy of K9 and Company. It was when we heard about it here in the United States. I remember when it came out, and they did not show it here, so we had to through other means try to get a hold of a copy to watch here. And a whole bunch of my friends sat around the TV, and we just glued ourselves to watching K9 and Company. It was just a favorite of mine, and it's sad that it didn't move on to the next thing, but that's show business, as they say. Well, we don't have the ratings, so but and of course she got very involved in. She did this as part of when she filmed Genesis of the Daleks. They made it into an album and did a narration. Kind of an audio version. It's narrated by Tom Baker, and there's her image on the front cover with Ian Marter and Michael Wisher and Tom Baker, and that came out back in the 70s.
I've never seen that before.
Oh, you've never seen that one? Oh,
no.
Gosh.
Wow.
Very cool. Well, then you probably don't know about Doctor Who and the Pescatons.
That one I have seen. So my parents have artwork in their house, but I've never listened to it.
Oh, wow.
Is it a record?
Yeah, this is a record, and they did it. This is the first audio adventure that was done. And it's Tom Baker, Elizabeth Sladen, and one other actor doing the audio, and it's a very short story about the Pescatons. It was a very popular offering. Came out in the UK, did not come out here.
Oh.
And they also released that on cassette.
Oh.
So Doctor Who, the Pescatons, and there's a cassette in there of the same thing, same artwork.
So retro, isn't it? The packaging, it's just great.
Oh, I love it. That's why, you know, I've been a Doctor Who collector for 40 years. So it's been since 1881. I bought a few things, and then of course it started to expand, you know, to, you know, I got a gift, the Doctor and the Daleks poster in the back. That's on canvas, and it's hard to see underneath it, but the artwork underneath there is the original artwork from the 1972 Radio Times with John Pertwee and the Daleks in color.
Oh, wow.
And that was by Frank Bellamy, and I was able to get that. And then, of course, the TARDIS decal on the door was a favorite of mine too. But just when I started the podcast about 3 years ago, I actually opened up the first Doctor Who store in Chicago back in *84, and we went from and my partner was Gene Smith, by the way. So that's where So I was on the ground floor of all this, and I sold my share of the company to him in '89. I went to college, I became a teacher, and then I honestly learned about 6 or 7 years ago that Gene was still doing it, and he has a wonderful shop in Lombard, the Alien Entertainment Store, and a great guy. I've known him for years. He and I were in the Many Companions of Doctor Who fan club back in the '80s.
Wow.
And that's how we all, you know, just a bunch of friends getting together, and we ended up starting a shop, and we used to take it to the conventions, and we sold things like the cassette version of Pescatons. That was really something. Now they recently they actually reissued Doctor Who and the Pescatons just recently. This is a new vinyl issue, and they combined it with the sound effects record. So this is something you can still get on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I don't know. This is something I put this on Instagram recently, but this is the Pescatons from the Australian Record Club, and her picture just is appearing on the back cover there. But it's the same record, but you could only get this if you bought it through the Australian Record Club. I got it. I got this a few years ago from a guy who was selling records in Australia, and I said, "Wow, I got to have that."
Amazing. I think I shared it on Instagram, and someone else, a friend of mine who's very into Doctor Who, said that he'd never seen it either. It's very rare, I think.
Yeah, I've only seen, that's the only copy I've ever seen for sale. I tend to look every once in a while. I do a lot of research just to see, because I'm trying to keep my listeners up to date on what's priced right and what's out there. And that particular record I have not seen anywhere. So it might be sitting in somebody's, you know, living or somebody's basement in Australia somewhere, that you could get that, but you could only get it through the record club. And record clubs were like book clubs, basically, where you had to order directly from the publisher. You had to sign up for a certain number of things, and then you got these records, and they were never sold in stores. So that record was never available in a store to start with.
Oh, wow.
We have a few of those in Doctor Who. There were a couple of books done here in the 80s by Nelson Doubleday that you could only get through the book club. And so those, of course, you know, if you have one, you couldn't get them in a store. That was the whole thing. Now, your mom first appeared on a Target book. Actually, it was a hardcover back in 1973. This is The Planet of the Spiders in hardcover with a dust jacket, and only from her back with the spider. And I'll never forget that scene, because John Pertwee looks at her and goes, "Oh, good grief." just like, "Oh, really?"
Here we go. Oh, it's a gorgeous cover.
Oh, I know. And they did it, of course, in paperback as well. And it's a wonderful story. Sarah Jane is one of the few companions to actually witness a regeneration. So was able to understand, even when, you know, later she met the David Tennant Doctor and the Matt Smith Doctor, understood even understood it more because Joe Grant didn't quite understand it because she never witnessed it. She kind of said, I heard something about that, but didn't know it. And that's actually one of the best scenes I ever saw was that episode of Sarah Jane where she was with Katie Manning. And I thought, what a great pairing. I think those two would have been, I wish there was a way that they could have crossed over. That would have been even better. Yeah. But I actually talked with Katie Manning yesterday. We've been in touch for 30 plus years. So, because I was curious about when you, on that same BBC interview, you had a necklace that Katie had given your mom and said it was from Liza Minnelli. And I said, Katie, is that true? Apparently it is. So yes, she confirmed it.
Oh my gosh, because I've never known, obviously for sure, because my mum gave it to me after Katie gave it to her, because I obviously a huge Judy Garland fan,
Yes, yeah.
Girl, and oh my gosh.
So yeah, apparently that is true. So I said, hey, Katie, and we talk all the time. So it was not and unfortunately her eyesight is not as good as it used to be. She's having a lot of trouble with sight. So we've been talking, we talk on Twitter nowadays. So it's a wonderful thing, but we used to write letters back and forth. I met her in 1985 and we just had a nice bond. And so she said, keep in touch. Here's my address. I'm like, wow, okay, I'll do that. I'll write. And then of course I thought I'll never hear back. And then I got a letter back. I'm like, this is great. So the Doctor Who people are so wonderful. And just when I interact with people, like, of course you got to interact with Fraser Hines. He's an amazing person on top of the fact that he's the longest running character in Doctor Who, and he treats everybody with super respect and is funny and a bit naughty himself sometimes, and just really funny. He and Colin Baker shared a stage at Chicago TARDIS, and they were kind of fighting back and forth about their age. So I'm looking up their age, and of course Fraser is 1 year older than Colin, so it's so they weren't even that close to. They're both in their 77 and 78, I believe. So they're not quite in their 80s yet. No. And then I also talked to Peter Purvis a lot. I don't know if you know Peter. Yeah, just he and I had a great conversation at Chicago TARDIS. He had never seen the reconstruction of the Feast of Stephen, which is the one episode of Dalek Master Plan that never got exported from England. It was a Christmas episode, and one of the groups had actually put together a photo snap, and he had never seen it, so I sent it to him, and he was just, oh, this is amazing. I mean, this is the only way you're ever going to get to see this, unless somebody recreates it someday. But it's just he was such a wonderful guy, had a lot of great stories about William Hartnell and working with Doctor Who, just some great stuff. Okay, back to the books here. Of course, she basically, this is a copy of Giant Robot. And I'm hitting my mic, but she's we do the Fay Ray thing here where the robot picks her up, and the King Kong reference. So she's on that artwork. This is the first edition of the book. The second edition of the book, there's just a picture of a robot on it. So this is the one that has Sarah.
Oh wow, I've never seen this one.
Never seen this one. Okay, yeah, that's wonderful. It's a great cover. This is of course the original Chris Achilleos artwork, and sadly we lost Chris just recently. Broke my heart because I had him booked for the podcast in February. Yeah, and we were just he sent me a wonderful print. I know I've got a print of the Day of the Daleks cover with he personalized it and all that. It was just I met him many years ago, and we've been talking back and forth for a long time, and I had no idea how ill he was, and and of course he did this one as well. I know this is the original Pyramids of Mars cover. Your mom holding the gun, of course.
Yes. Oh wow.
It's a great picture, and she, this is of course one of the best stories that she was ever in, I believe. Just an amazing thing. Now this is it's kind of small in the corner, but this is the Seeds of Doom.
Oh yes.
A great story. I mean, there's that scene where the guy holds her arm out. All right, let's see what happens. It's actually a terrifying episode. There were some moments where I thought, oh my gosh, and of course her final story, The Hand of Fear, where They have her on the front cover there.
Oh, that's lovely.
I thought Chris always, it looks like a photograph. It's that good. He was so good at capturing. Then they went to photographs here. This is a later edition of the Paradise of Death.
Oh yes.
And she's on the front cover of that. It's not a great story, but it's one of my favorite audios because it was I believe it was the last project John Pertwee did before his passing.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Gosh.
Yeah, because this was in early '93, and he passed away later in '93. This one here, I don't know if you've seen this one. This is a missing adventure called The Device of Death. It was a script that was never produced.
I think the artwork, we have like a print of it in, my parents have it in their dining room, but I don't
wonderful.
know the story.
Okay, yeah. This is one I have not read yet, but this is apparently a story that was from that season of that first season of Tom Baker that they never filmed. And so I know Big Finish was trying to get the rights to most of these to try to redo this. So if they do, you might be on for this one. Sadly, when they did the Canine and Company theme song, they didn't put your mom on the cover. They just put Canine on the cover. But it's a catchy little tune. But John Leeson, of course, that was his singing debut, and he's another man with a million stories, and just said, when I was doing Crown Court, and Patrick Troughton was the litigator, and stuff like that. He would tell all these great stories about all these projects he was in, and how how doing K9 was his platform. That's like, I did all these wonderful things and then I did this and all of a sudden I'm a huge celebrity. And I know that, when actors join Doctor Who, they get this little warning from from other actors, like, let me just make you aware of the fans. And when I met Tosin Cole last year, who was traveling with Jodie Whittaker, I said, did anybody call you to warn you about these? Yes. I said, well, how do you feel? He said, this is great. I says, I've done Shakespeare for years and I could walk down the street. Now I walk down the street and people are like, hey, you're the guy with the doctor. It's like, so it's really something how that changes. Of course, this is the program from TARDIS 22 that in 1985. And they have, let's see if I can get to the page here. Let's see, here she is in the corner there. I'll try to get that up there. Elizabeth Sladen. Yeah.
Oh.
When she appeared at that convention. This was the last of the Spirit of Light conventions. And I'll tell you a quick story about it because the guy that ran this had hired John Pertwee to sign 3,000 posters. And unfortunately, and this was just a sad thing, but nobody was keeping track of how many posters he was signing. So as he was signing, they were slipping more posters into the pile. And at the end of that session, John Pertwee was not happy. And he said, I know there were more than 3,000 posters. So after that, it started, and he started it with Fraser Hines to get a guy to sit next to him with a clicker to make sure. So during autographs, Fraser will have a guy next to him counting to make sure that he's signing the correct number that he gets paid for.
Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Gosh.
And that goes back to 1985. Unfortunately, Spirit of Light went bankrupt. So TARDIS 23 never happened. But what did happen was the contact information and everything got gathered together. And that's when Gene Smith put on Visions 90. The first North American Doctor Who convention past this. So that we kind of learned from, Gene and I were both at this convention. We were both dealers. We had our shop at this convention.
So you could track how it was working and.
Yes, absolutely. And so we were doing not only just being in the dealer's room, but he was also scanning the convention. You know, like the 24-hour video room was something that was left over from this, and better organization of photographs and autographs. Because in those days, you basically walked into a room and there was a long table at the end, and people were all sitting, and you basically maneuvered to where you were going, and there was no organization or a time. And if you couldn't get everybody in that time period, then you were just out of luck. And so it was not very well organized, and there was some complaints about that the guests didn't get paid right away, or there was some problems with that, or travel problems and things that nature. So so Gene always makes sure he takes really good care of all of the guests. I mean, I'm sure he treated you with extreme professionalism and got you there, got you home. That's his big thing, and he's behind the scenes most of the time, but he's the one taking care of everybody. Just an amazing thing. VHS. I have some of these these are from the UK releases. The Time Warrior, of course, the very first appearance. It's still one of my favorite stories. I mean, I love how she sneaks into this thing and becomes the next companion of Doctor Who, and the first appearance of the Sontarans on top of that as well. So the Time Warrior. The next one, I love this one as well, but Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Great story. And she's in there somewhere. Yeah, she's on the cover somewhere, but just a really great story for that. I also loved her in The Monster of Peladon. Just a really great story for her. Of course, he's going back to Peladon and trying to find the king, who of course died because it's 100 years in the future. And I guess Big Finish just did another story with David Troughton again.
Yes, I think so, about Peladon, didn't they? Yes.
Yeah, but bringing back King Peladon, and I thought, what a great thing. The most popular story in the United States, of course, was Genesis of the Daleks.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And this one was shown more at least in this area than any other story, because it was the origin of the Daleks, and of course Sarah and Ian Marter and Liz Sladen were just amazing in this. Michael Wisher plays Davros, and of course Michael Wisher used to do the Dalek voices in the Pertwee era, so he was kind of a starter for that. And just a really great story. We got it shown many times. The Planet of Evil. It's a great picture of her on the front cover. I don't actually know who does the artwork for the VHS. They don't list that person, and it's not something, but they did a really nice job on those tapes. Just a great story. Here's The Seeds of Doom.
Oh wow. That's
a wonderful story. The crinoid here, the wonderful plant creature. Now, the Androids of Death, they show her with her face off.
Oh yeah.
That was actually one of that cliffhanger when the falls to the ground and the faceplate comes off, and I'm like, that was a great cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, scary.
And of course, this is a wonderful picture for the Hand of Fear.
Beautiful.
They did. That's she was a beautiful lady. I mean, just absolutely one of my favorite things that was done. Chris Achilleos, of course, did this. I don't know if you've seen this book before, The Amazing World of Doctor Who. This was a program of firstly of trading cards.
Oh, okay.
So there was so I'll see if I can show you this. This is the trading card for Sarah Jane Smith. There's only one, and basically the trading card. There's a bunch of them. You can TARDIS and the Doctor, and on the back it said you could send £1. It's like £1.99 for the wall chart. Oh. And of course, the wall chart, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you the whole wall chart here, but I'll do my best here. But
oh, wow. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Oh, you could collect cards. Oh.
So there's a place here to put the cards. So the doctor card, stick card number 1 here. But that's just a beautiful, this is the only, I believe it's the only cover that Chris Achilleos did with your mom in that style, and it's really nice. I mean, just a beautiful poster. And of course, this was not available in the United States. I got lucky and was able to get the book and the book. And of course, there's a story in the book where they have a picture of your mom that was drawn in there, and it's the only story in there with Sarah. But it's hard to see, but she's back there behind Tom. Just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Of course, she also her very first appearance in Doctor Who magazine was on issue number 7 of Doctor Who Weekly.
Oh yes. Oh wow.
Yeah. And that was her first appearance on a Doctor Who magazine. And of course, the first time they did a spotlight on her was in the 11th issue.
Oh gosh. Oh wow.
And of course, Doctor Who magazine did many things with her. There's also I don't know if you've seen these trading cards.
The K9 and Company one. Oh gosh.
Yep. K9 and Company. Actually, I think this is 5 Doctors. When she fell down the hill.
She fell down the hill. That's what I'm thinking of. Yes. Yeah. You're right. And that purple mat.
These were out during the early 90s. And so, and of course, whenever I see all this stuff being produced, it makes me wonder, I hope your mom got paid for all this.
I'm sure she chased it up. Oh gosh, how funny! Gosh, there's so much stuff.
Just a lot, and this is just scraping the surface. When I do my research, of course, David J. Howe is a wonderful friend of ours. I don't know if you know David. He has a website called the Doctor Who Toy Box. And so when you go to the Toy Box website, you put in Sarah Jane Smith, and everything that was ever produced comes up, and it includes things like, there were copies of her headshot that were sold. BBC Photos released some official photographs. I'm pretty sure there's also some unofficial photographs out there that happens every once in a while. The cardboard cutout, of course, all the newer action figures, of course, Big Finish does get into that action figure market. So you might see the Sadie Miller action figure in due time. You never know. That would be fun. Actually, I would love to have one. That would be great. To add that to do that. Absolutely. And just the things that had, and of course, sometimes there were BBC photos of her from other productions. There's a really wonderful photo I saw of her in that police constable uniform from that show she did, that hostage episode. And, some of the other things that, that were just not related to Doctor Who. And of course, just the things of, lots of K9 and Company videos and tapes and things like that. Just a lot of things that came out. One of the other things that's one of my favorites is that she has a recipe in the Doctor Who cookbook. I don't know if you knew that.
I've never seen that before. Oh my gosh. Oh,
and so I got to ask, this was the cauliflower cheese. Is that something you had as a child?
I don't remember having that, but I'm sure it's very nice. I've never seen that before. How funny.
Yeah, it's page 86 of the cookbook. She has a recipe. Now, according to the research I did, Gary Downey literally bugged all the Doctor Who actors to come up with a recipe, and so the story I heard about him contacting Liz Sladen is she gave him something just to get him to go away.
Oh gosh.
So she may have pulled a recipe card out of whatever and said, "Here, take this." And so they did that. But they did do. I don't know who did the artwork, but that's a wonderful little drawing of your mom cooking.
No, it's really lovely.
So it's and of course on the other side is John Pertwee's poached egg salad. So he's got that on there. There's some this book did not sell very well. They did a hardcover and a paperback of the cookbook, and it basically, I love the copy on the back. It says, the Makra Terror lived off a steady diet of toxic gas. The Ogre fed on blood, and even the Fifth Doctor was known for his fondness for celery. And so when the book was reviewed, they said, yeah, most of these recipes did, result in toxic gas. So
Oh, what a shame.
John Nathan Turner did a few things in here. Terrence Dix, people from the show. They just got as many people as they could to put that together. They also did a really nice article on your mom in the 20th anniversary celebration book. I'm sure you have one of these somewhere.
No, I don't think I've seen this one.
Oh, no, okay. But yeah, they do a nice article here on Sarah Jane, and just a beautiful pictures here. This is one of my favorite photos that they do with her and Tom.
Lovely, isn't it? And lovely photo of Ian as well. Wasn't that lovely?
Oh yeah, he was such a nice guy. I got to meet him as well, and sadly died way too young. Yeah, he was in Chicago. He was one of the guests at Spirit of Light. And just sad, died too young. Just a budding writer too. He novelized many Doctor Who stories and was a really brilliant writer. And I guess I know Liz loved working with him. And that was just a great team. That Dr. Harry and Sarah team was just it kind of was reminiscent to William Hartnell's William Russell and Jacqueline Hill characters working together and having that relationship, and that relationship that was not they were close but not too close. You know what I mean? They trusted each other with their lives, but that was as far as it went. And Sarah Jane was the independent woman. She was a journalist. She was going after going after the story and going after the that and trying her best to stay out of trouble, but did not like being the damsel in distress. So, but I want to close. I have here a copy of the Sarah Jane quiz book.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to give you the first quiz here is, how well do you know Sarah Jane? So we're going to test your knowledge. And don't worry, if you get any of them wrong, no one's going to write back and say anything, but there's 10 questions. So let's see. The first question, these are multiple choice. So first question is, where does Sarah Jane live? Is it Bannerman Road, Flagstaff Road, or Bunting Street?
Bannerman Road.
Bannerman Road. We'll have a ding ding edited in there. Okay. What was the name of Sarah Jane's alien supercomputer? Was it Mr. Jones, Miss Peabody, or Mr. Smith?
Oh, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith is correct. You're 2 for 2. And where does she keep her computer? Is it in the potting shed, the attic, or the cellar?
Oh, it's in the attic.
In the attic, of course. And what is Sarah Jane's profession? Was she a journalist, a private investigator, or a florist?
A journalist.
A journalist, of course. Sarah Jane used to be attached to a super secret military organization. Was it MI6, Unit, or MJ12?
Ooh, Unit.
Unit. All right, we are halfway there. Sarah Jane was orphaned as a baby. Who brought her up? Was it her Aunt Lydia, her Aunt Laura, or her Aunt Lavinia?
Aunt Lavinia.
Aunt Lavinia. She is mentioned many times in the program. What is so special about Sarah Jane's favorite lipstick? Does it not smudge? It tastes of strawberries, or is it Sonic?
It is a Sonic lipstick.
It is Sonic lipstick, but I'm sure it doesn't smudge either. I've never seen her with smudged lipstick. Sarah Jane used to go traveling in time and space with whom? Was it with the trickster, the master, or the doctor?
Oh, the doctor.
Easy question there. What really annoys Sarah Jane about her neighbor, Jita Chandra? That she calls her Sarah all the time, the way she drives, or her laugh?
I think I'm going to have to go for the first one, that she keeps calling her Sarah.
That is correct. She keeps calling her Sarah. I don't like the way she keeps calling me Sarah all the time. And the final question, what is so special about Sarah Jane's wristwatch? It can tell time on Metebelis 3, it can detect aliens, or it can translate any alien language.
Oh, I don't know this one actually. Is it can detect aliens?
And we have a 10 for 10. So you know Sarah Jane. That is so much fun. Yeah, the Sarah Jane quiz. I got this the other day for about $1 used. I thought what a wonderful thing. And of course the quizzes start from mostly from the the Sarah Jane adventure, but there's some wonderful publicity photos in here of her, and some in black and white, some in color.
Amazing.
And one of the things, just some wonderful pictures here, and a beautiful picture of Nicholas Courtney there. I know that Nicholas Courtney made his final appearance in the Sarah Jane adventures before he sadly passed away. One of my favorite people from Doctor Who, just a wonderful man. I met him back in the 80s as well. Just
really? Oh.
Great guy. Yeah, I've been very blessed to interact with many of the people in Doctor Who, and some of them, like my favorite story from 85 was I was getting into the elevator of the hotel to go back to my room, and in the elevator was John Pertwee in full Wurzel Gummidge costume and character. And he's proceeded to stay in character and entertain everybody in the elevator. He hit all the buttons, so we'd stop at every floor. And at one point we were pretty packed, and he would say, "Oh, come in, we've got plenty of room in here," and stuff like that. And then basically worked his way up so that after the last person left, he could go back to his suite. So I thought, that was an experience you could never. I would, of course, there were no phones, but a friend of mine was in the elevator with me, and I said, "Okay, you saw this too." So that memory is ingrained in my mind. And of course, when Gene and I were at the dealer's table in 85, John Pertwee walked into the dealer's room and walked up to our table, and we were just, starstruck. Of course, he's looking down and looks, "Look at all this stuff." And he picks up a copy of The Cave Monsters and holds it up and says, "Do you think it's a good likeness?" He's like, "I never liked this stuff." It's just like, "Look at all this." And finally his handler caught up with him. "Mr. Pertwee, we've got to go. We got a session." And so he kind of had a chance to wander around a little bit. And he said, that was the other complaint, that they didn't get a chance to enjoy the convention. They were always on the clock. And that's something I know Chicago TARDIS, I noticed, a lot of people walking through the dealer's room and walking around and checking out different things. And it was, I think, few years ago, I was doing a session. I do my collecting session every year there, and I'm in the middle of the presentation, and Fraser Hines walked in and sat in the back row, and I was like, "This is great! Oh, let's keep going and do this." And it was a lot of fun to basically interact with people that we see as people we've seen on TV, but they're real people, and they're wonderful to interact with and talk with. And I got the impression, just even from the one comment about your visit to Chicago, that everybody loved having you there. I certainly enjoyed meeting you myself, and just the fact that Big Finish was able to bring you over and have that part. And I also thought it was funny that in the photograph line, so many people just wanted their photo with you. I felt bad for Jason and the rest, and they were like, "Oh, okay," So I think I know that got the wheels spinning there, and they said, "Well, maybe we need to do individual photographs for those folks," and because that was just a wonderful thing. But Sadie, it was great to have you. Don't go away. I want to ask one more thing of you after we sign off. But to our listeners here, we've been talking with Sadie Miller. She's the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen and currently playing Sarah Jane Smith with Big Finish. You can find her audio adventures at bigfinish.com, and she's the author of a wonderful book called Moonblink, which you can get at Candy Jar Books. It's in the Lethbridge Stewart series. It's still available. So she's a wonderful writer, a wonderful actress, and of course, I remember from her first interview I saw, she was working in a call center, living the dream, was what he said. So thank you, Sadie, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Juliet.
And I'm Nathan.
Experience Doctor Who from the very beginning through a classic fan's eyes.
And through the eyes of a new Who fan.
Reminisce and relive those classic moments with Nathan as he offers fun insight.
Or experience them for the first time with Juliet as she dwells on social issues, history, fashion, and the size of a flashlight.
We're the Time Streams podcast.
Find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Are you ready to travel through time with us? then check out Traveling the Vortex, a Doctor Who podcast. For nearly 7 years and more than 500 episodes, we've traveled from one end of the vortex to the other, making different stops with different doctors, reviewing everything from TV stories to audio plays, from books to comics, and more. Sean, Keith, and Glenn take you on a journey through 50 plus years of Doctor Who episodes and spin-off materials. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, so be sure to check us out. And now, we're a proud member of Direction Point, a Doctor Who podcast network. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
All my travelings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
And now it's time for the most outrageous offer. Today, we have something that is related to our main story. A copy of the book, Who's That Girl? The Autobiography of Elizabeth Sladen. That was published in, looks like 2011. And it's a book that was widely distributed, very popular. And I just want to point out that we now kind of know from, and this came to us via email. It's one of the emails I picked out because it kind of fit our show today. And it's from Abe's Books, which is one of the sites that actually has this problem. And it's a problem because it's unscrupulous sellers that use robot stores. Now, here's how it kind of works. Now, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing because we're going to get the entire story about how this works in our next episode. We are talking to David J. Howe, and he actually unfolds this entire scam as it works and how it works. So I'm guaranteeing this bookstore that I'm about to talk about doesn't even have this book in stock. Because what they're going to do is if you pay this price, they're going to buy the book at a much lower price from another seller who's offering it at a more reasonable price and sell it to you for the most unreasonable prices, and how those prices get up. Now, of course, assuming that the cycle will continue, they will probably target this listing and offer the book for twice as much as what they're offering for this one, and do the same thing. They'll buy it from them. So before this book even goes into the hands of a single consumer, it's not even, it's one book or two books at the lower price that you're actually buying at a much higher price, if that makes sense. David is going to explain that in great detail in our next episode. But here's the most outrageous offer. Who's That Girl? The Autobiography of Elizabeth Sladen. And the bookseller is Revaluation Books from Exeter in the United Kingdom. They've been a seller since 2003 with a 4 out of 5 star rating, so not a perfect rating. The shipping, of course, to the United States is $13.67, and they're asking $162.29, which is a really unusual price for a book, which kind of leads me to that conclusion that this is not a real person behind the price of this store. As always, we reach out to the store to ask if the price is legitimate. We did not hear back. You can get copies of this book as low as $6.40 in new or used condition, because it's been out for a while and many, many copies were had. So you should not pay more than $20 for this book in any location. Unless, of course, if it's, if you have a special copy or a promo copy or something like that, then that's going to raise the price on a collectible anyway. But in this case, if you just want the book, if you want to read the book, if you want it for your collection, you don't need to pay that high price. Look for the lower prices. If you go to abebooks.com, look for the title of the book and sort them by lowest price. You can do that. You can also sort them by highest priced. When I go to check these links, I often look back to see if it's still there. This one is still posted as of this taping. And so you can get the book. It looks like they've got new copies here from $42.30, which is still a little bit high, but they got some used in new books from $6.40. Now, I did not check Amazon or Amazon.uk. I'm sure this book is still available in those platforms. You might even find a good price on eBay, but some eBay stores do the exact same thing, especially if they say to allow several weeks for processing, which means they got to buy the book from somebody else and then send it out to you. So I think we've uncovered the scam. And again, tune into our next episode. David J. Howe will do that. So that concludes our most outrageous offer. I want to personally thank Elizabeth Sladen's daughter, Sadie Miller, for being with us. She represents our highest ranking Doctor Who guest on the program, as she is a current Doctor Who companion. And we are very pleased for that. Our next episode, we'll be talking to David J. Howe, and we will be talking to him about his new book, The New Who Adventures. So that's exactly what we're looking at there. We've also got coming up our next installment of Doctor Who Classic hardcovers, which basically has Tony Witt, of course, and we're going to talk about the hardcovers that came out in 1978. So we're going to close with a little audio clip here, and it's from the show Public Eye, which was aired in 1972. And it features Elizabeth Sladen as a policewoman. And you can also find this clip on our Patreon page. We'll have the video clip as well. It is very close to the time that she was on Doctor Who, which is a year later, when she joined John Pertwee for the Time Warrior. So it's a wonderful thing to see her in other things. And of course, we keep her in our hearts since she is no longer with us. I was very, very pleased to have Sadie Miller on the program. So anyway, here's Elizabeth Sladen as a policewoman in Public Eye, and keep collecting.
Can I get you anything, Framula?
What is happening?
Oh, there'll be some news soon, I'm sure. Tea or something? Coffee? Oh, no, I'm not very good at it.
Direction point! Direction point!
A Doctor Who podcast network.